Yo, what's up, YouTube? This is your boy Alex, and less than 24 hours ago, I looked at my video called "Sex Game, Self Improvement: The Success." Basically, it's a very good video. I didn't anticipate that I would get like 56 views, but I want to say thank you. And give me Sunday, okay? Give me Sunday or Monday, and I'm going to make the video called Thank You to Men and Women Who Subscribe to My YouTube channel. That video is coming. It's just a matter of me collecting my thoughts on what to say to the people who view these videos and subscribe. It means a whole lot to me that people watch these videos and they get the information and the knowledge that comes from those videos. So thank you. I appreciate that. Without you guys, without you men and women, I would not have the motivation to come on here and do filmmaking, YouTube videos. This one right here is going to be broken up into two videos. Part one is going to be the men, and then we always save the best of the best for last. That's going to be for women. So women, don't be like, oh, he ain't make no video for us. I'm going to make a video for the women. It's going to be related to sports and film, because we're still in the category of television and film. And I have a lot of categories to cover in television and film. And they're not easy to just write on a piece of paper and put on a script and then, have them on camera. It takes a lot of time and effort and preparation to put on camera and make sure you say them accurately, because people do comment and people do watch these videos and they will, see what I've done and tell me if I've done a good job or a shitty ass job. So it takes a while for these videos to get produced. And when they get produced, I want to make sure they're the best content, because that's what I'm all about, giving you the best of the best. That's how you get views. That's how you get subscribers. And most importantly, that's how you get respect in this world, by doing things the correct way instead of rushing and just trying to put something up because you want somebody to see it. It doesn't always pay off that way. Today's YouTube video is called Sex Game, the top 12 best sports in films. Now, I probably might change up the title to Sex Game, the top 12 best sports films to be made into a film. Or we could say the best stories made into a film. We'll come up with a badass, catchy title for this video. I know you men are going to love this video, because this video is all about sports and the betrayal of characters that are based on true events. Now, I put 12 down because I don't want my cell phone to get hot and overload. So try not to get upset if your favorite movie is from the world of sports and it's not on this list. And you understand, I'm going to put part one on here because it's going to get broken into two parts. Part one is for the men. Part two is for the women. So don't be scratching your head saying, oh, he forgot this, he forgot that. Coming in at number 12 is Coach Carter. Now, Coach Carter is based on a true story. Samuel Jackson was in that movie. He played the coach. It's about a basketball team in California that won a state or city championship, and when he was playing basketball, and then 20 years later, he comes back, he coaches the basketball team, and the big controversial to that story was the principal or vice principal did not want a basketball team in high school, and they had a lockout, and the lockout caused them to lose some basketball games. They did make the playoffs, they did play in the championship game, and they did lose. And then the very next season, his son, Coach Carter's son, would play basketball and break his father's record. So it's a big story because it took almost 25 years for them to actually turn into a movie and tell the story of how a high school basketball coach decided to lock out the season and things of that nature. A lot of people were mad at Coach Carter back in the day because these were kids that had scholarships to play Division I and Division II college basketball, and maybe one or two players from that high school team actually made it to the NBA like some 15 years ago after that. And they made movies about it. They've made movies, television shows, they've wrote books, they've done documentaries, and it's a part of American history because it actually did happen in a small town here in California or someplace close to here. And to do a movie portrayal where you see a high school coach, not just a high school coach, but a philosopher, try to mentor kids to being just better than just being basketball players, this movie's good because it kind of shows you what young black men experience when they're in high school before they get into college, before they get into the real world. And, he was kind of upset when their grades were slacking off. Like, their skills got good in basketball, but they weren't going to their classes. And he was so upset with them that he locked out the season when he saw they was just wanting to just be superstars. So this movie's kind of good because it kind of opens your eyes and ears to there's a lot more important stuff than just playing basketball and sports. There's a lot more bigger things in the world than just I want to be rich and famous and I just want to get all the hot girls. There's a lot more important stuff going on in life outside of sports. And this movie kind of opens your eyes to that controversial of why he did it. And then to not have no basketball team some almost 20 years after that, and then to bring the basketball team back after he retired as coaching makes you wonder if they should have made a part two or a part three to that story, which they still might actually do. And some say they kind of already did because they kind of wrote some stories up that got made into television shows that have that same similar story. Principal or vice principal don't want no basketball team for whatever reason. And when they started winning championships, it changed the culture there. So that's why this is at number 12. Coming in at number 11 is Red Belt. Now, Red Belt is a martial arts thriller. It's a thriller, it's a drama, and it has sports. Now, this one is one of my personal favorite martial art films of the mid to late 2000s. It came out in 2009. And if you know the actor who played Baron Mordo in Doctor Strange, before he played that movie, he was in a movie called Red Belt. It's a very underrated movie. A lot of people didn't really care for this movie. The idea that he was an eighth degree black belt in martial arts, but he had a red belt. And the fact that he had a martial arts school, he was training some police officers, some soldiers, and he had a fiance that he was engaged to get married to. Spoiler alert, I don't want to ruin the movie if you ain't seen it. Spoiler alert. And basically, he was forced to close his school down and take part in a mixed martial arts tournament to win prize money because this guy couldn't get no work in his 30s. This guy's fiance was cheating on him. I'm not trying to tell the whole movie, but when you watch the movie Red Belt, you'll understand why they call the movie Red Belt. Because this guy feels like he's like the last of a last breed of real true martial artists. And sometimes when I watch that movie, I sometimes feel like that. I sometimes feel like I'm the last of the real true breed of martial artists. I feel like I'm the last of what was before. And this movie kind of solidifies that. Even though it's a underrated and not appreciated film. And people who like mixed martial arts, people who like UFC can kind of watch this movie and get an insight that this movie was showing that we were going away from martial arts and we were going to MMA. This movie kind of, shows what direction we were headed to in sports, with entertainment. All right, coming in at number 10 is Rocky 4. Rocky 4 is by far one of the best films in the Rocky series. Everybody has their favorite Sylvester Stallone quote. Everybody has their favorite Rocky moment. Everybody has their favorite character, their favorite villain, and everybody has their favorite Rocky movie. Rocky 4 to me was the best one. It was better written, better produced, better directed, and who did that movie? Sylvester Stallone, Sly Stone. He produced, he written, he directed, and he acted in the movie all at once. No movie from before was that good, and no movie after that was that good since. The fact that you could have a heavyweight champion take part in an expedition, witness the death of Apollo Creed, and then go take on Ivan Drago. It was like just when you thought Rocky 3 was the best film in the series, Rocky 4 was better than Rocky 3. I mean, we will always like Rocky 1 and Rocky 2. But Rocky 4 was like the next movie and it took it to the next level. Say what you will about Rocky 5 and Rocky Balboa, which was the sixth film in the franchise, but Rocky 4 kind of set a standard of filmmaking, and this is how you should do a movie that's based on sports. The fact that you had everything. You had the good guy, you had the bad guy, you had your supporting characters, you had your central characters, you had your story plot. Good versus bad. Who's the winner? Who's the loser? Man versus nature, man versus man. You see all of that in this movie, and Sylvester Stallone captured all of that in this film. And this movie made you want to go to the gym, do cardio, do weight training. I love the training montages in Rocky 4. They were so motivational and so inspiring that when you say, I want to see what a masculine man looks like, that's what a masculine man looks like. A guy who puts in blood, sweat, and tears and doesn't give a damn about nothing else. He leaves the fame, the fortune, and get his ass in the gym and train his ass off. And when you hear the song say "Heart and Fire," that's what a lot of motivation is really all about. It's about heart and fire. It's about taking that look in the mirror and asking yourself, can you go that last round? Can you go to the distance with this person? Can you really pull it all on the line? And can you come out on top without having no regrets? That's what Rocky 4 really was about. And the fact that it set up Rocky 5 was nicely. And like I said, Rocky 5 wasn't as good as Rocky 4, and Rocky 6 kind of took us back to the original Rocky, but it still wasn't the original Rocky. So everybody will agree with me that Rocky 4 was by far the best film in the Rocky series. Coming at number 9 is Creed with Michael B. Jordan and Sylvester Stallone. Now, Creed is kind of like a callback to the original Rocky series. It gave you something that you thought you would never get. Now, to me, the Rocky series will always be the foundation of these movies moving forward. Creed 1 was a callback to Rocky 3, if you really think about it, because he knew so much about their fights that Rocky was like, how do you know about what happened in the first and second Rocky fights? And then how do you know about the third fight that was a secret? So Creed was a callback to the first three Rocky films, which was nicely done. For them to take the idea of Creed and say he got a son 10 years later that wants to box, and, I'm trying to stop you from making the same mistake that your father made, and then to have that struggle. I want to be my own man, but I'm living in the shadow of my father. And a lot of us as black men, not just as black men, but black men, white men, Latino men, Asian men, we struggle with that every day, don't we? 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, we struggle with the idea that when we play any sports, basketball, football, baseball, whether it's tennis, soccer, boxing, martial arts, whether it's filmmaking, whatever your passion is, when you watch this movie Creed, you get the sense that I want to be my own man. I want to earn my own money. I want my own house, my own car, my own everything. I don't want to have to kiss somebody's ass to earn that. And Creed was kind of like a nice way of saying, yeah, he's my father, but I'm living in his shadow. A lot of us feel like that. When we get brought up from kids to adults, we feel that. People say, oh, that's such and such's son. That's such and such's grandson. And we feel insulted by that. And the movie Creed shows what he went through. Like, everyone just called him Baby Creed. And he was like, my name is Adonis Creed. We feel that with Michael B. Jordan. We become the character. We feel the passion, the emotion, the anger, the rage that Creed felt in the movie. And that's why that first film was so significant and it was a critical success. It is in some way underrated because a lot of people just said, oh, it was a Rocky spinoff. It ain't really Rocky. Okay, Rocky's in it. That was the criticism the movie got. But Creed 2, fixed that issue. So if you look at Creed, it is a movie that will stand to the test of time because Michael B. Jordan portrayed the character in a way that makes us feel how we feel on the inside. He expresses it on camera. That's how we feel on the inside. All right, coming in at number 8, and it's a tie. It's Warrior and Cinderella Man. Now, what do Warrior and Cinderella Man have in common? Both movies are set in difficult time periods. The Warrior, it's set in the 2000s. Like if you look at 2007, 2008, that's when Warrior come out. Warrior, not to ruin the movie for you, is a fictional tale about a guy who's a high school teacher who basically is not making enough money, and his wife is supposed to have some type of medical procedure in hospital, and he's got kids, but he's not able to pay the bills. You know, it's the 2008 stock market crash. Everyone's suffering from it. They've lost money and finances, and he tells his wife he's gonna get two jobs, but it ain't working. And then he gets the idea to do what? To do mixed martial arts. And he's like in his he's like in his late 30s, early 40s, and he's being told by his best friend who was in the military, you're a little too old to be trying to do mixed martial arts. And the humanity in that film was to say no matter how old you get, something can always be accomplished no matter what. And this movie's an alpha male movie because it shows you the progression of his character. Like, he made the transformation from high school teacher to badass MMA fighter. And then to have his brother be played by Tom Hardy, who played the character Tommy that was a U.S. Marine, to have two guys do mixed martial arts. Both guys have motivation. Tommy's character was to give the money to the family because all the soldiers had died in the battle and he came back alive and got blamed for it. And the guy's twin brother needed to take care of his wife's medical bills and take care of his family. So you see the struggle. You see brother versus brother, but you see their motivations for fighting each other in this movie. And then there's the common thread. There's the character that Kurt Angle played, Cobra. Like, he's the champion. He's the guy that's rich and famous. He's the guy that has it all. And these two fighters need to be the one to get that prize money because their motivations were for that. And to see that movie and to see it set in a time period where, okay, we just had the stock market crash, this was the chance to see that fight. It gave you the feel like you want to do mixed martial arts after seeing that movie. On the other hand, we got Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe by Universal Pictures, directed by Ron Howard. Better written, better produced, directed, best movie ever seen. And the movie will stand to the test of time because it was set in the Depression era, where people lost their jobs, people got fired, people committed suicide, people was living on the streets, eating food out of trash cans, and Ron Howard had captured all of that in the movie. You feel what the people feel. You see what they see. You understand what they went through. You feel that. Like, it makes you want to not want to end up like those people. Like, it makes you want to give the homeless food and water and all your money when you see that. Like, to see what those people of that generation had to go through, knowing it be 20, 30, 40 years later if they're still alive, to see that on the big screen would make them break down and cry because that's what they went through. And when they tell my generation, you got to be happy that you have the internet. You better be glad that we have the internet when they created it for us, that we don't have to have those opportunities taken from us. And that's what the movie Cinderella symbolizes. The way that James J. Braddock would fight back, the way he would just beat people, to be from the top to the bottom and then come back seeking redemption and then to become heavyweight champion. He would have his own theme song. It was like James J. Braddock was Rocky Balboa before there was Rocky Balboa. Like, that question had finally been answered in cinematic history in the world of sports. There could have been someone before Rocky that went through the same thing, and it was James J. Braddock. So you saw the Rocky story, but it made you wonder that there were fighters that came before that were put in similar situations. You feel the passion, the anger, the rage with James J. Braddock, taking the weight onto his shoulders, not just to fight for his friends and his family, but to fight for everyone. And that's something you see, and that makes you a true alpha male, not just being rich and famous and kicking ass and being heavyweight champion. So that's what you get. Coming in at number 7 is He Got Game with Denzel Washington. Great masterpiece film because it's written, produced, and directed by who else? The legendary great Spike Lee. The son of father and son. This is a movie, like, if you look at Creed and you look at He Got Game, they're literally the same movie and the same story plot. It's father and son. The son is living in the father's shadow. The father wants the son to be the best version. The son has to go through that struggle, man versus humanity. And Ray Allen was an NBA basketball player, and he got to play the son, and he got to be the guy that would be tempted by temptation. And this movie kind of opens your eyes to, yeah, it's good to be rich and famous, it's good to have the hot women, but there's a big price you have to pay for all of that. And the movie opens your eyes and ears like, if you got to be in Ray Allen's shoes, do you want to be rich and famous? Do you want to have the fame and fortune? Do you want the hot women? Do you want to pay that big, big price for success? And this movie kind of shows you what you're going to go through if you get to that level. I apologize. We got people calling phones. I don't know why people be calling and disturbing me when I'm doing a YouTube video. I can't stand when people do that because it messes up the video. It takes away from the video performance. So that's what I like about He Got Game. The only disappointment with this movie is that Spike Lee should have made a direct sequel. He should have made a He Got Game Part 2 or He Got Game Part 3 where it's set 15, 20 years later and Ray Allen's won 3 NBA championships and he's towards the end of his career and here comes this young up-and-coming player that's in the same situation as he is and he needs advice from Denzel Washington's character. Like, he could have made a He Got Game Part 2 or He Got Game Part 3. But he did make a spinoff with the same thing of basketball, which in my other video I'm going to talk about Love and Basketball. So he did come back and revisit basketball. Coming in at number 6 is The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale. This movie got Oscars like crazy. 2 Oscar Academy Awards. It got Golden Globes. I mean, Best Picture, Best Sound, Best Movie Portrayal, Best Character, Best Supporting Actor. I mean, this movie was that big of a deal. To tell the story of Mickey Rourke, the fighter, the guy who would have 3 legendary fights, and the guy that would fight in 3 or 4 different weight classes. There's middleweight, middle heavyweight, there's welterweight, there's light heavyweight. This guy would be fighting in 3 or 4 different weight classes and did boxing for about 10 to 11, maybe 12 and a half years. And then this guy would come out of retirement and have maybe 2 or 3 big fights before retiring again. To see his story, to see that struggle of, I can't support my family if I don't do boxing. And again, boxing was good because this showed, again, with a different sport. If it's not basketball or football, again, it's boxing. And this movie kind of showed his redemption. It showed his rise, his fall, and his redemption all in one movie. Christian Bale's performance, incredible. Like, you couldn't even tell that it was Christian Bale. Like, man, is that guy lost all the way? Is that Christian Bale? And then to see Mark Wahlberg make that transformation to fight and to see all the challenges he went through when he got rich and famous, people were just using him because he's famous, he's champion, and then when he failed, he got no phone calls, got no text messages, nobody spoke to him for 6 years, and then when he came back and made his return to the ring, those same people that used him from before, he told them, nah, get your ass away from me. So that movie, The Fighter, is always a big reminder that when you get successful, remember there are people from your past that will be trying to use you just because they see an opportunity to take an advantage of you. That's what The Fighter shows in this movie. Coming in at number 5 is Any Given Sunday. You got Al Pacino, one of the greatest legends, greatest icons, one of the best actors we got in today of acting. You got Jamie Foxx, the star of this movie. You got my man LL Cool J. You got Lawrence Taylor, Cameron Diaz. You got James Woods up in this movie. An all-star cast, Bill Bellamy. You got Terrell Owens in this movie. You got a superstar all cast in a movie called Any Given Sunday. If any movie got to 99.99% accuracy of talking about life in the NFL, smash mouth football, it's this film right here. This movie gets the close accuracy. They show you what happens when you become rich and famous. What happens when you play 10, 15 years of professional football and your arms broke, your legs broke, your neck hurt, your back's hurt. You've been knocked out unconscious 7 times. You've been injured. You've won championships. You've lost championships. You've had your dream get made and get broken approaching football. And this movie shows this in this movie. And the fact that you get to see the main character have to struggle with his identity, like the way Jamie Foxx struggled. I got my girlfriend. I got trying to make some money. I'm trying to play football. I'm trying to be a star. I'm trying to win a championship. And then there's the temptation, the challenges, the demons that you must face to make that journey. Was a good movie. Some people felt it should have got a sequel because there was so much material with this film. You could have actually made a sequel or a television show out of it, which they did make a television show, but the NFL got upset when they made Playmakers, because Playmakers was something that came out of Any Given Sunday to show how the real NFL works and how football players get drafted. And they had to, ESPN got in a lot of trouble for making that television show, but they got the idea from the movie Any Given Sunday. All right, coming in at number 4 is Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington. Yeah, he's on here twice again. Denzel Washington's the man when it comes to these movies, though, because he's so good with his motivational speeches in these movies that every time you go on YouTube, you type up motivational speech, Denzel's got like maybe 5 or 10 of the best motivational speeches, maybe 20 of them that come from the vast majority of his movies. And this one is up there because it's Remember the Titans. It's football, but in college. And this takes us to another difficult period. It takes us to those late 50s, early 60s, mid 1970s, and you're seeing the struggle between a black man trying to basically take a college football team to a championship in a time where people are being, racially discriminated against, and for him to overcome all the odds, take this team to a championship, make his mark in history, and then to have some 30, 40 years go by that, they make, Remember the Titans into a movie. So it's a powerful film, something you should watch on this list. Coming in at number 3 is Rocky. Rocky is the movie that started it all with sports franchises. This movie is the first of its kind and the only film that stands to the test of time. With Sylvester Stallone writing a script, at the time he was a screenwriter, a director, and then he became an actor, and then he was hot when he came off his success of Rambo First Blood, when he came off the success of those movies, because he had done the script to, he also had reservations to write the script of Rambo because nobody wanted to really play the character. Because they had already cast someone to play Rocky, which a lot of people don't realize. They were going to get Burt Reynolds to play Rocky. And Stallone came in and said, "No, give it to me. Yo, Adrian, I did it." Iconic thing in film history. If it weren't for Rocky, there would be none of these other movies on this list. Because at the time, they didn't think that doing sports into based on true stories, they didn't think, at the time, Hollywood didn't think these movies were going to be any good. Like, they didn't think people would want to see a 2-hour, 3-hour movie of someone's life story in sports. At that time, they were doing genres like science fiction, horror, they were doing fantasy, they were doing westerns, comedies, romance. And at the time, nobody really didn't think sports was going to be, a big investment for Hollywood. And 50 years later, now you see all these sports movies, and if it weren't for Rocky, you would have had no Creed 2. You would not have movies like Grudge Match. That fantasy to see Sylvester Stallone versus Robert De Niro. Yeah, it all started with that movie called Rocky. So it makes sense to have this on the list. Coming in at number 2 is The Raging Bull. Everyone should see this one boxing movie at least once or twice in their lifetime. Great masterpiece. Very well written, produced, directed, and starring Robert De Niro. And Robert De Niro played a good version of Custer Jake Mata. The prize fighter who fought for like almost 20 years. And of course, there's that story that he was always connected with organized crime. And the fact that he got to fight Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali's favorite boxer and hero, by the way. And this movie is like set close in that same time period where it's like 25 years before who shows up. Ah, young man rumble, ah! Fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee, ah, young man rumble. Before Muhammad Ali show up, these two guys were the stars in boxing. And Raging Bull is a powerful boxing film. Even though it's 30 or 40 years later, this movie is got good picture, good sound, good quality. Most movies got to get remastered, not this film. And even when they did remaster it, it still was a good film. So you got to at least see the Raging Bull with Robert De Niro at least once or twice your lifetime. I don't care if you don't watch any of these movies on this list. You watch this one movie one or two times your lifetime. That is a true boxing film for a boxing fan, or if you just like sports or movies in general. Coming in at number one, and this was a tough one to call. Some of you will agree with this, some of you will disagree with it. Some of you will have your issues with the video. I understand, nothing's perfect. I don't get every single thing in these videos right. At least 65% of the time I get stuff correct. The other 45% of the time I get stuff wrong. Coming in at number one is Ali with Will Smith. There have been at least 15, 16, maybe 17 actors in 30 years that have came in and have tried to play Cassius Clay, aka Muhammad Ali. And there have only been a few actors who have been able to come close to look like Muhammad Ali, talk like Muhammad Ali, dance, whoop your ass, and fight like Muhammad Ali. And Will Smith does it like nobody else. To have to do light surgery to have his skin get lightened, to have the accent, to have the look, to come in there with the charisma, and to display the fights, to transform his body, to leave Will Smith and turn into Muhammad Ali, and then to box the way he boxed, live, dream, and breathe boxing, takes a lot of commitment. To travel back and forth between Los Angeles to all the cities Ali fought, to all the places Ali was, that is a hard commitment to do. And Will Smith pulled the movie off and transformed into Ali. It's like when you get on screen, you don't even see Will Smith, you see Ali. Like you know it's Ali, you know it's Will Smith playing Ali, but the fact that he transforms. And to me, this is the only movie that comes very close to actually portraying Muhammad Ali and actually getting it right. Now, the movie does get some strong criticisms because there's some stuff that the movie did miss. There's some stuff the movie cut out. There's stuff that was overlooked. There was stuff that was refilmed, reshot. And there is two different versions of the movie. And this one kind of like, you see everything about Muhammad Ali, good and bad, in this movie. You in and out of the ring, he was Muhammad Ali. It was not no fake act. This was the man. This was the legend. This was the icon. This was the greatest of all times. And Will Smith pulled off one of the greatest film portrayals of a real life person. And Will Smith did it. So there you have it. These are the movies that are on this list. So some of y'all will agree with the stuff that's on this list. Some of you will not. Some of you will comment. Some of you will be indecisive. I completely understand. Till next time, peace.